What's up, you guys? In today's video I'm going to be attempting to create a padded leather tufted edge effect to these cutting boards that I've already spent over 15 hours working on. The stakes are high. The first thing I'm going to be doing is building some jigs. The second thing, I'm going to be testing the jigs and testing the router bits that I've bought for this. And then the third thing, I'm going to be applying everything I learned from that to these cutting boards that I've spent so much time on. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, the first thing I did was I built this prototype jig. I put it on the edge of a board and I pushed the router along this fence here and everything felt good. So now I'm going to take this jig apart and I'm going to make this adjustable right here so it can accommodate different sizes of cutting boards. Right here I'm adding layout lines where I'm going to be cutting some slots. Okay, here's my layout lines. I just transfer these lines down to the end of the board and that way I can set my fence on my router table. Okay, so these lines I just transfer over to the side of my board. That way I can set up my stop block and I can mark the fence with a pencil where I'm going to begin my plunge cut. Right here I'm using a 1/4 inch router bit and I'm taking off a 1/4 inch at a time. The plywood I'm using is 3/4 inch plywood. So it's going to take me 3 passes to get all the way through it. Okay, right here I'm cutting 2 1/4 inch holes to line up with these 2 slots that I just cut. So off camera, I put the jig together and there was a lot of friction and a lot of binding going on, so I decided just to put 1 slot in the center. Let's just pretend the other 2 slots are to reduce the weight of the jig. How about that? Now I'm attaching the fence of the jig to one of the support pieces. Okay, drilling the holes by hand wasn't working that good. The holes weren't straight enough, so I decided to use this jig to cut the rest of the holes. And I drilled a hole in my table saw. Okay, this piece of wood right here is 1.5 inches wide and that carriage bolt is 2.5 inches long. And then I just have a wing nut that I attach to the top. These are the connector pieces. There's 4 of these pieces and each piece needs 1 hole on each side. There's also a slot in the middle that I cut off camera. I made these out of 3/4 inch MDF. Now I'm attaching the connector piece to the support piece with a 1 1/4 inch deck screw. The screw is floating inside of the MDF and screwed into the plywood. That way the connector piece can pivot. Okay, right here I have a piece of 8/4 red oak. I'm going to be testing out these jigs, and I'm going to test out the first router bit. Okay, first I mark the center, and then I make a square line. And then I start from one end of the board, and I just work my way to the center, and then I do the same thing on the opposite side. Once I have my first 2 lines, I get a really sharp pencil. I put the pencil at the end of the line, and then I slide my square up to it, and I complete the line. Okay, before I cut into my workpiece, I'm going to make a cut in the jig, and then I'm going to use this cut line to line up to my layout lines. Okay, I don't know it right now, but when I'm hammering the jig right here, I'm messing it up and it's no longer an accurate 45. So before I test the next bit, I'm gonna have to fix the jig. Okay, right here I'm making a cut on the opposite side of the fence. That way I don't have to keep doing climb cuts. Later, I figure out that I can flip the jig around and I don't have to do any climb cuts at all. If you look closely right here, you can see that my jig does not line up with the layout lines anymore. Not too happy with the results from that first router bit, and my jig's messed up, so let's fix this jig. First I took one screw out. Right here I'm loosening the other screw, correcting the angle, and then I'm tightening that screw back down. Then I shoot a nail in, pre-drill an entirely new hole, and then zap in a new screw and another nail, and I'm done. So right here I'm basically trying to polish this turd, see if I can make it look better with a round over bit, but after rounding over the edges I still don't like it, so I'm gonna move forward and try out my next router bit. So I tried a different order of operations on this side, and I rounded over the edges before I made the angled cuts, but I didn't like this technique because it cut away some of my layout lines. Alright, I'm satisfied with these results. Now it's time to put my money where my mouth is. Right here I'm building my third and final jig to make a perpendicular cut in the center of the cutting board. I'm actually committing an order of operations fallacy right here. I'll explain more about that in a second. Now I'm starting on my second board. This board has a leopard wood border around it. added a detail in the center of this board that requires doing a stop cut, so I'm going to show you in real time how to safely do a stop cut. Once you get to the end, turn your router off and then you can take the router away. Don't pull it out while the router is still running. Off camera, I hand sanded each and every one of these cuts with a folded up piece of sandpaper. I started at 100 grit and I worked my way up through the grits to 220 grit. Before the final shots, I just want to say thank you guys for watching and thank you to my subscribers. If you guys try this, then take a picture and tag me on Instagram and I might post it on an upcoming video, or maybe I'll share it on Instagram. If you haven't seen it already, then check out the video about these patterns that I added to these cutting boards.